Hi there. Welcome to your fraction review lesson. My name is Mrs. Benson and I am the new math coach at your school. Today we are going to review the basics in fractions and how to add and subtract them. You will need a piece of paper or two and something to write with. If you have any questions, please contact your teacher or you may email me at the address I share at the end of this video. Ready? Let's get started. First, let's review what makes a fraction. Here, you see a rectangle separated into equal parts. How many equal parts are shown? That's right, there are 6 parts. The number of equal parts is always represented as the denominator, and that number is written underneath the fraction bar. Let's write that now. In this model, the numerator, which is written above the fraction bar, represents the number of shaded parts. Here we see how many parts shaded. You got it, it's 4. Let's write 4 as the numerator. An important skill you need to understand is how to reduce fractions to their simplest form. If you have struggled with this in the past, it can help to draw a model like the one we have here to help us visualize the fraction. I will model this for you now. I see that there are 6 equal parts and that there are 4 are shaded. I notice that there are 2 unshaded parts. And I see that there are 2 other groups of 2 in the shaded parts. If I draw lines to split the rectangle a different way, I see that there are now 3 parts. 1, 2, 3. And 2 of those 3 parts are shaded. So now there are 3 parts and 2 are shaded. So the original fraction here of 4/6 in simplest form is 2/3. Now let's practice adding like fractions. First, let's identify the total number of parts in this rectangle. Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 total parts. Just for this first problem, we are going to model by writing 1/10 inside each part. This is something that I always encourage you to do if you are struggling with adding like fractions. If you do not struggle with this part, it is not necessary for you to label each individual piece. Now we are going to add. Let's add 4/10 and 3/10. Now, to show 4/10, we are going to shade in 1, 2, 3, 4. And then to represent 3/10, 1, 2, and 3. If I count the boxes that I shaded in, those equal parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. When I add 4 and 3 using my mental math strategies, I also get 7. So 7 must be the correct numerator. But what about the denominator? Should I write 20? You're right, I should not write 20. A common mistake is to write 20 because boys and girls think that since they added the numerator, they also need to add the denominator. But we have learned that that is not the proper practice, because all we did was add tenths. We added 4 tenths here and 3 tenths here. We are still adding tenths. So 4 tenths plus 3 tenths equals 7 tenths. Let's try another one together. First, let's count the parts. I can count quickly by counting by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8. There are 8 total parts. This time, I'm just going to write 1/8 one time. However, if you find that it does help you, you may write 1/8 inside each box. I'm going to choose to add 4/8 and 2/8. And to determine my sum, first I'm going to shade in 4/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2/8. 1, 2. When I check by counting the equal parts, 2, 4, 6. And remember, just like with the last problem, we are adding eighths, not adding the eights together. So we are not writing the sum of 8 and 8. We are still adding eighths. Now, do you remember back in our review slide when we talked about how we could simplify? Do you notice a way that you could simplify here? I bet you do. Let's talk about the way that I noticed. I'm noticing here when I shaded that I'm seeing sets of 2 in here as well. So I have one set of 2, 2, 3, 4 sets of 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be my denominator. And then how many are shaded? 1, 2, 3. So 6/8 simplified is 3/4. Now there is a way that we can do this quicker without using the model. So once you understand how we can get it using the model, you can then jump to doing some math, either mental or writing it out as we are going to do now. I think with 6 and 8, they are both even numbers, and all even numbers can be divided by 2. So if I divide both, divide both my numerator and my denominator by 2, 6 divided by 2 equals 3, and 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Now you are going to try this one on your own. Pause the video and work to identify the total number of parts, then add the parts together. Check to see if the fraction can be simplified. Pause the video now. Great, let's check our work together. There's 12 total parts, 3 and 7. So 3/12 plus 7/12 equals 10/12. Great job. I also think about 10 and 12 and knowing that they are both even numbers. I did it again. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Good job. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. Fabulous. So 10/12 becomes 5/6. Let's continue with subtraction. Here we have our total parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Will give us our denominator of 6. Total shaded, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That gives us the same numerator and denominator. Oh yeah, you're right. When the numerator and denominator are the same, that fraction is equivalent to 1 whole. I'm glad you remembered that. Okay, so now we're going to actually subtract. And we're going to subtract 2/6. So here we can do that simply by, in this representation, crossing off 1/6, 2/6. To get how many remaining? You got it. 4/6. What I like about subtraction of fractions is that in this particular model, we can keep going. So let's do another one. What would you get if I took away 3/6? Right, 1/6. And I know this two ways. I know that 4 minus 3 equals 1, thus 4/6 minus 3/6 equals 1/6. And then, if I were to look over here and see my 4/6 remaining, and I crossed off 3 more, I have my 1/6. I'm sure you're feeling like an expert at this by now, so let's pick up the pace a little bit. Here we're going to continue by identifying the total number of parts. Notice how this rectangle isn't shaded in all the way. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 total parts becomes the denominator. Correct, and we're sticking with like fractions for now. And how many are shaded? Good job, that's 11. And I want you to subtract 7. Okay. So what I would like for you to do now is to finish by solving this problem and finding the difference between the two fractions and check to see if you can simplify. Pause the video now. All right. If you have 4/16 as your difference, then you are correct. Did you simplify? If not, let's do that now. So 4/16. Now again, we have two even numbers. So I could divide both my numerator and my denominator by 2. However, I have good number sense and I know my multiplication facts. And I know that 4 is a factor of 16. So I know that I can divide both my numerator and my denominator by 4. And that 4/16 in its simplest form is 1/4. Now let's practice adding fractions with unlike denominators. Remember, unlike fractions are fractions where the denominators are not the same numeral. So let's look at our first example. We have 1/3 plus 1/4. Notice how I've drawn it out for you in a model to show in picture form that 1/3, 1 shaded out of 3 to make 1 whole, and 1/4, 1 shaded out of 4 to make 1 whole, are not the same. And as you remember, we cannot add these unlike fractions. So we are going to convert both 1/3 and 1/4 to a different equivalent fraction, but where they both have the same denominator so that we can add them properly. How we do that is we come up with the multiples for both denominators to determine what the least common multiple, the LCM, is. So for 3, I think about 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is 12, and 3 times 5 is 15. And then when I think of 4, 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12. Oh wait, I wrote 12 over here too. I don't need to continue this list. So 12 is the least common multiple of 3 and 4. And now 12 will be my new denominator. So then I think to myself, looking just over here, we'll get to this side in a minute. 3 to 12. I need to multiply 4. Remember? 1, 2, 3, 4. But I need to multiply my numerator by the same number. 1 times 4 is 4. Perfect. So 4/12. We're going to write that over here. Now, 1/4. 4 times 12, well, that was 1, 2, 3. 4 times 3 gives us a product of 12. So then 1 times 3 is a product of 3. 4/12 plus 3/12. So I'm just going to rewrite that down here. You don't have to do that if you have the room. 4/12 plus 3/12 is 7/12. Great job. Let's continue with this next model. 3/5 plus 1/4. Now I'm going to get you started by doing the multiples with you, and then I'm going to ask you to pause the video and finish the rest yourself. So my multiples of 5, counting by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. You might notice I stopped at the 5th multiple here. I usually like to write my first 5 multiples of my first denominator, and then I always can go back and add more if I need to. Here, for 4, 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, oh, there's 20. Okay, so 20 is my least common multiple for both denominators. And just like we did before, think about what you multiply, come up with your new numerators, add, and then see if you can simplify. Pause the video now and continue your work. Did you get 16/20? Good job. If not, let's do a quick review. We did 5 times 4 to give us 20. So then we also multiplied our numerator, 3 times 4, to get 12. Then, oh, guess what? Mrs. Benson noticed that she made a mistake. You know, That's okay. Math actually stands for mistakes allow for thinking to happen. I actually noticed that I made that mistake. I wrote 4 times 4 over here as well, which means I now have an error in my math. I did remember that 20 was the denominator because I had written that down previously, but I was thinking and working so fast I accidentally wrote a 4. But 4 times 4 isn't 20. 4 times 5 is 20. So then I had to make that correction up here. 1 times 5 is now 5. And guess what? 16 out of 20 isn't the correct answer. It's 17 out of 20. Did you get that right the first time? I bet you did. If you made the same mistake as me, you know what? That was an honest mistake, and we are all human. Good job for catching that. All right, don't worry, we are almost done. You've been doing a great job with this. Now we're going to switch to subtraction of unlike fractions. Here we have 3/4 minus 1/6. The procedure is the same, we just change the operation. So we think of our multiples of 4 and 6. So to speed things up, 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. And for 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. I don't see a common multiple yet. Remember what I said? Sometimes you've got to go back. Here, 20, 24. Up there it is. 24. There's our common denominator. And again, so 4 times 6, 3 times 6 gives us 18, right on, and 6 times 4, right. We were extra careful this time to make sure we didn't make the same mistake again. And 1 times 4 is 4. So now here we have 18 24ths minus 4 24ths. And like I said, you don't need to rewrite this. But now I need to pay attention to that operation because I am now subtracting. 18 minus 4, our difference is 14. And if we were to simplify that, we would get what? Right, we would get 7/12, dividing both of them by 2. Okay, this is the last problem. It's your turn. Take a moment, pause the video, and work through the problem to find the difference. And then we'll go over it together. Pause the video now. Here is my work. Did you get 1/10? I bet you did. If you didn't, notice that 2 we found was our least common multiple. We multiplied 5 times 2 and 3 times 2. And 2 times 5 and 1 times 5. Then we subtracted to find the difference. I want to thank you so much for working with me today to review basic fractions, adding and subtracting both like and unlike fractions. If you have any questions about this lesson from today, you can contact your teacher, or please feel free to contact me, Mrs. Benson, at my email address at our school district posted on the screen in front of you. That's nbenson, NBENSON, at NASD.gov. www.k12.pa.us. Thanks again for working with me, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.